Hi everyone, today is the lecture for July 3rd, lecture 7. Please continue to read the Pennebaker and Smythe book. If you're on track, keeping up with the course, you will be reading chapters 6 and 7 today. I'm not going to cover 6 and 7 or 8, 9, and 10 in these lectures. I'll handle the Smythe and Pennebaker book the same way I did with the Carr text, which is offer my thoughts on some of the central themes in the first half of the book and be curious to see what you think of the central themes and concepts in the second half of the book, which I'll be reading about in your Pennebaker and Smythe book review, which of course is due no later than 10 p.m. On Canvas on July 9th. And so today, for Lecture 7, I simply wanted to offer a few free writing prompts that might help you in your free writing journal, that ultimately might help you with this reflective essay. So, and I've pulled these just from my own past experience, as well as from, you'll recognize a few of them from the Pennebaker and Smythe book. So the first one is the kind of a future self free writing prompt you might give yourself. And this kind of comes out of the spirit of, say, Abraham Maslow's work on the notion of self-actualization, and just a notion of human development, right? That focuses on your actualizing of your human potential. And so, right, the idea is what would you look like if your potentials were fully realized, if you were the full realization of yourself? And this question sort of gets to that and putting it into the future, assuming that we're not there yet and assuming that we're interested in continuing to develop as humans throughout our lives. The question is posed this way, right? That imagine yourself at age 60, having worked your entire life to develop yourself to your full potential. What would you be doing? It's a good question to ask. That usually helps us kind of visualize these interior qualities that we value by describing what we would be doing. What would you have accomplished? And a difficult one, right? Who would you be? What kinds of qualities would you associate with yourself? And so this is a really good exercise to just free write about for 10 minutes. It oftentimes helps give people a sense of direction and a kind of sense of crystallizing some of the values they hold important to themselves. So that's one idea to work on in your journal. Another one is, instead of the future self, the past self. And this free writing prompt is set up with a Jack Kornfield quote, which is, like a sandcastle, all is temporary. Build it, tend it, enjoy it, and when the time comes, let it go. And this seems to be a central theme, right? That a lot of us deal with in life, in our journals, in various other forms with friends and therapy, which is, life is continually evolving, and it seems that most things in life, including ourselves, most things are impermanent. So how do you go about realizing the impermanence of things in life while still valuing them? And how do you go about recognizing when certain things that were important in your life in the past are now obstacles to your future growth? And that's sort of the sentiment behind this quote. And so it asks, right, are there things in your life or parts of your former self that you need to let go of? And I added this next line, things that were once valuable but are no longer needed, because in some of the readings I've been doing over the years, it's been helpful to see that people are saying, right, just because you don't need it anymore doesn't mean that you're somehow devaluing it. You can thank that thing in your life, that part of yourself that did help you at an earlier time, and then let it go in honor of your present and future self. So anyhow, that's the spirit behind this one as well. If you find it interesting, great, use it as a free writing prompt. If you find it meaningless, that's fine too. Skip it and move on. Find something else to set up as a prompt for yourself. But I would suggest in your free writing journal at times to give yourself a formal prompt like this. Even if it is just write whatever comes to mind for the next 10 minutes, write it in the journal as a prompt. Because when you need to be, you'll be referring back to your journal when you write that reflective essay. and it's easy to forget what it was you were actually free writing about, without having that writing prompt actually written in the journal. So we did present self, or sorry, future self, past self. Here's another one just for present self. Pretty self-explanatory. I won't, uh, kind of comment on this one. And then here's the standard Pennebaker protocol approach for, essentially for trauma writing. Spend 10 minutes free writing about something that is troubling to you. And I use the word troubling here as the larger category so that people can decide the severity of the issue they want to bring up, right? Troubling can include, minor problems like I don't have a car and I need to get to work, using the bus is not working. How am I going to solve this problem? You could write about that on through to larger issues like past traumas that perhaps you haven't discussed with friends or family. And so that's up to you, of course, to decide the level of magnitude of the issue you want to bring to the table if you choose this sort of free writing prompt. But the idea would be here to really try to achieve that sort of letting go experience that Pennebaker and Smythe write about, to be uninhibited and write that combination group, right? Both the thoughts and feelings that come to mind regarding the issue you chose. And then the last prompt could just be a social context prompt. It could be something to do with writing at the top of the page, as Pennebaker and Smythe offered in a different example. Something like, the people in my life, and then free writing for 10 minutes about whatever comes to mind. And then sort of reviewing that free write to see if there's anything valuable to be taken from that experience, any patterns or trends that you see, that offer some sort of insight. Because, of course, as you know at this point from reading the first half of Pennebaker and Smythe's book, that free writing doesn't seem to gain its power, its beneficial effects, from a kind of cathartic experience, as Freud would have thought for talk therapy, right? That the research shows that the quality of free writing that that correlates to the positive outcome is actually a kind of insight making, right? Where people reorganize the experience by bringing it into the forms of language. And so that's the idea here. Okay, so today is a short lecture, and just wanted to give you a few ideas for your journal writing that needs to kind of build to this reflective essay. And then tomorrow will be lecture 8, which will be the final lecture of the course. Don't forget the Pennebaker and Smythe book review is due no later than 10 p.m. on the 9th. And then in lecture 8 tomorrow, I'll briefly address the Fontaine, Topher and Walker, Moffat, and then the medical articles. Don't forget that we've reserved July 15th, 16th, and 17th, just time for you to find those 4 additional research articles you need. And of course, I'd be happy to meet with you or talk with you on the phone or email if you're having troubles finding those articles. If you find a few and want to run them by me before annotating them, feel free to email them to me as PDFs or something, and just let me ask me just to check them over, make sure they work for class. And then of course the big wrap up is July 18th, when your annotated bibliography and your reflective essay are due. And at that point I'll ask you to complete the course evaluation. And I want to mention that since this is the last day of class and I'm on the hook to submit grades shortly thereafter by NU, that if these really can't afford to be very late, right? There is a late policy in the syllabus for points deducted for late assignments, and that holds here, but you'd need to get these into me, even if they are late and losing points, within a few days of this assignment. Okay, I hope you're enjoying the Pennebaker and Smythe book. Thanks.